Lester Harvey looked up just in time to see a bear falling out of the sky. A second later, the bear landed on him. He was crushed to death. Now, this sounds like something out of a bizarre urban legend, but it's 100% real. In 2024, in Lunenburg County, Virginia, a group of hunters had chased a bear up a tree. One of them fired a shot, and the bear fell right onto Lester Harvey. He was rushed to the hospital, but didn't make it. Like hundreds of hunters before him, Harvey believed he knew where the real danger was, in the thick brush, from a misfired rifle, or even a swarm of angry insects. But he never expected danger to fall out of the sky, especially in the form of a bear, dropping from a tree right onto his head. And believe it or not, that's not even the weirdest fatal freak accident in this video. So fair warning, viewer discretion is advised. June 2016, Virginia Beach, USA. Lottie Michelle Belk was celebrating her birthday and wedding anniversary at the beach. Sun, sand, and cocktails. It was supposed to be the perfect ending to a perfect day, until around 5 p.m., when the wind suddenly picked up. One strong gust ripped a large beach umbrella right out of the sand. The umbrella flew straight at her. One of the metal spokes struck her in the chest with brutal force. Lottie stumbled back and collapsed. A lifeguard rushed in to give first aid, but by the time the paramedics arrived, her heart had already stopped. The official cause of death, a penetrating chest injury from the umbrella impact. So yeah, if it's crazy windy outside, maybe skip open spaces. What really gets me is how sudden it was, how danger can come out of nowhere, and how even a place like the beach, where kids laugh and the air smells of salt and sunscreen, can suddenly turn into the scene of a real tragedy. March 2019, Goshen, Mississippi, USA. Margaret Maurer was walking back to her car along the highway. It was just another ordinary moment, but if she'd glanced over her shoulder at the right time, she might have seen it coming. Just seconds before she reached her vehicle, two wheels suddenly detached from an 18-wheeler passing nearby. Each weighed about 227 kilograms. They rolled nearly 260 meters down the road, gaining speed. One of them slammed into Margaret with such force, she died instantly. And the tragic accident wasn't her fault. She wasn't trespassing on train tracks, didn't try to cross a busy highway, and wasn't even drunk. She was simply walking to her car. Goshen police said the truck driver pulled over as soon as he realized something was wrong, but it was already too late. Authorities later said it was most likely a mechanical failure, not a driver error. Still, take this as a warning. Don't skip those car checks. And always stay aware, watch your surroundings, listen to the sounds around you, because danger doesn't always make a sound. Sometimes it's already coming, even in your own driveway. In the evening of June 18, 2016, friends of American actor Anton Yelchin were waiting for him at a rehearsal, but he never showed up. Yelchin was best known for his roles in Hearts in Atlantis, Terminator Salvation, and the Star Trek trilogy. He was never late and he always replied to messages right away. Worried, his friends and colleagues headed to his home in Studio City, Los Angeles. Around 1:10 a.m., they found a horrifying scene. Anton was pinned between his car and a brick gate pillar. The vehicle had been parked on a sloped driveway, but it rolled backward, crushing him. The coroner confirmed the cause of death as traumatic asphyxia, and the police ruled it an accident. There were no signs of a break-in, and no strangers in the house. Anton's smartphone was still with him, but he never had the chance to call for help. The tragedy quickly sparked major public concern. Yelchin's car, a 2015 Jeep Grand Cherokee, had a known issue with its electronic gear shifter. Because of a design flaw, drivers could mistakenly think the car was in park when it was actually still in neutral. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration was already investigating more than 850,000 vehicles with the same system, after numerous reports of cars rolling away on their own. By then, the defect had already led to over 120 crashes and 30 injuries. As we can see, a system designed to make driving easier had already caused harm before, but this time, it took a life. This heartbreaking accident is a stark reminder of how dangerous a car can be when something isn't working right. Don't put off repairs. If your vehicle has a flaw, as all it takes is a few seconds, and you're completely alone, face to face with tons of metal that suddenly decides your fate. September 23rd, 2016, Haymarket, Virginia, USA. 20-year-old Sydney Zelaya Gonzalez just wanted to help. She was assisting a 41-year-old woman, whose name hasn't been released, with moving a full-size mattress. It was too big to fit inside the car, neither in the trunk nor in the back seat, so the only option left was to strap it to the roof of a Chevrolet Express. The problem was, they didn't have any rope. Everything happened in a rush. Rushed thinking, a tendency to cut corners, the urge to help. All of it came together in a split-second decision that felt right at the time. She climbed onto the mattress, thinking her body weight would be enough to hold it down. She didn't realize that air density, the car's speed, and wind resistance could be just as brutal as the crushing weight of concrete. The car took off, but then a sudden gust of wind caught the mattress. Sydney lost her balance in an instant. She fell hard onto the pavement and suffered a traumatic brain injury. By the time police arrived, she was already unresponsive. The crash was fatal. In just seconds, an ordinary road turned into the site of a tragedy, and a simple act of kindness became Sydney's last. The driver was in complete shock but fully cooperated with the investigation. Police later confirmed that neither alcohol nor speeding played a role in the accident. It was a senseless, tragic mistake. Sydney was trying to help. In the next story, though, the reckless decision had nothing to do with helping anyone. It was all about chasing internet clout. February 24th, 2017, Singapore. Jonathan Chow was standing near the railing of a shopping mall with a friend. He handed her his phone and asked her to film a Snapchat video. The boy was convinced the video would go viral and hit thousands of views. And he was right, but not for the reason he hoped for. At just 17, Jonathan decided to try a risky stunt. He planned to jump over the railing and land on a ledge just below. They were high up, and he thought it would make a cool, dramatic shot for social media. What he didn't know was that the ledge was made of drywall. It looked solid and sturdy, like a part of the actual structure. In the CCTV footage, you can see the moment it gives way under his weight. Jonathan fell 4 floors straight down. He died on the spot. For a few seconds, his friends didn't understand what had happened. She was still holding the phone, recording, right until she looked over the railing. And this kind of story isn't rare. Tragic deaths in the name of content happen way too often. When you're standing on the edge, forget about the social media filter and just think about whether you'll have time to tap undo if something goes terribly wrong. Let me be clear about one thing. No amount of likes is worth your life. What feels bold or exciting in the moment can lead to something irreversible. August 2017, Nara, Japan. A 40-year-old warehouse worker at Tanarumono Logistics was standing next to a forklift, staring up at the warehouse ceiling 10 meters above the ground. One of the ceiling lights needed replacing. The problem was the forklift could only raise him about 2.5 meters, nowhere near enough. So he got creative. He had no ladder and no time to wait for one. Or maybe he just didn't have the patience to explain to his boss why the light bulb still hadn't been replaced. He stacked 35 wooden pallets, each about 15 centimeters tall, one on top of the other, then placed the entire wobbly tower on the forklift platform. Then he asked a coworker to raise him up. Nothing could go wrong. But as the forklift lifted the unstable stack, the pallets began to shift. The whole thing collapsed. The worker fell from that height and hit his head hard on the floor. His coworkers called for an ambulance immediately, but the injuries were fatal. He didn't make it. The poor man only wanted to turn on the light, but what he left behind was darkness, in every possible sense. This tragic case ended up featured on the Darwin Awards website, a site that, somewhat ironically, highlights people who meet their end through extremely poor decision-making. But it's not just about mockery. It's a brutal reminder. Use the right tools. Follow safety rules, especially when working at heights. And even if you always play it safe, someone else's bad idea can still take you down with them. October 28, 2023, Sheffield, England. Hockey player Adam Johnson was on the ice. At the Utilita Arena, eyes locked on the puck, tracking his opponent's every move. The game against the Sheffield Steelers was intense. All 8,000 seats were packed with fans hungry for action. The Nottingham Panthers were trying to regain control of the puck when Johnson accidentally collided with a teammate, and that's when everything went horribly wrong. As Johnson began to fall, Sheffield Steelers defenseman Matt Petgrave lifted his leg, and the blade of his skate sliced across Adam's neck. It happened in a split second, but that one motion turned out to be fatal. The hit struck right on the carotid artery, that exact spot where a tie rests against the neck. Blood began pooling on the ice almost instantly. At first, Johnson didn't seem to grasp how serious the injury was. He tried to skate toward the bench, but collapsed just seconds later. Panic swept through the arena. The crowd fell silent. Children turned away, covering their faces. And even the commentators were speechless. His teammates rushed to him. To shield the crowd from the horror, they joined hands and formed a circle around Adam. In those tense moments, they did everything they could to save him. No one in the arena expected to witness a tragic end instead of a game, especially one caused by something as ordinary as a skate. He was rushed to Sheffield's Northern General Hospital. Doctors fought to save him, but the injury was too severe. Late that night, Adam Johnson was pronounced dead. His family was informed the following morning. South Yorkshire police launched an investigation. 17 days after the incident, Matt Petgrave was arrested on suspicion of manslaughter, but was later released on bail. And the tragic truth is, a life can be taken not only in the middle of a brutal game, but even in the middle of something as intimate as a moment of passion. August 2016, Mexico City, Mexico. 17-year-old Julio Macias Gonzalez suddenly began convulsing during a quiet family dinner. Earlier that evening, just before the incident, his 24-year-old girlfriend had given him a hickey on the neck. Later at home, Julio collapsed and lost consciousness. His family immediately called for an ambulance, but by the time paramedics arrived, it was too late. Doctors couldn't save him. The medical report revealed that the hickey had disrupted blood flow and caused a deadly clot. That clot traveled to his brain and triggered a stroke. Sometimes, the softest touch of our loved ones can trigger the most terrifying chain of events. Julio's family blamed his girlfriend for what happened, but this wasn't an isolated case either. Back in 2011, a 44-year-old woman in New Zealand lost movement in her arm because of a hickey. The kiss had damaged an artery, leading to a clot. Just a seemingly innocent romantic gesture, and part of her body ended up paralyzed. But not all the tragedies in this video were accidents. Some are just the result of really bad decisions. December 2015, Germany. The sound of an explosion shattered the quiet of Christmas morning in the small German town of Shoppingen. A 29-year-old man and two of his buddies jumped into a car and sped off. Their plan was simple, quick and easy cash. So they tried to rob a condom vending machine. Yeah, you heard that right. Not a bank, not a jewelry store, but a metal box full of rubbers and just a few euros inside. They rigged the machine with explosives and backed off, thinking they were at a safe distance. They were wrong. The blast was so powerful, it blew the machine to pieces. One chunk of metal launched through the air and slammed straight into one of the men's heads. His friends panicked. They rushed him to the hospital, unconscious. To cover their tracks, they claimed he had fallen down the stairs, but doctors weren't buying it. The injuries didn't match the tale. They fought to save his life, but the trauma was just too severe. He didn't make it. Let this be a reminder, theft and destruction don't just break the law, they can cost you everything. Especially if you're using explosives on a metal box. November 16th, 2015, Pula, Croatia. Bojan Besic was serving an 8-month sentence in Pula prison for threatening his ex-girlfriend and illegally using her personal information. Before that, he'd already spent 5 years in Croatian prisons for other offenses. He was a tough inmate, not aggressive, but impulsive. That day, Besic was sent to solitary confinement after yet another incident, but the guards didn't search him properly. He still had a lighter. At around 3:34 p.m., he set fire to the cell walls, which were covered in foam and synthetic leather. It was his attempt to scare the prison staff. Besic expected the guards to react quickly. He stared directly into the surveillance camera, waiting. But no one was watching the monitors. The fire spread quickly. Thick smoke filled the cell, and that's what eventually killed him. He suffocated. By 4:05 p.m., the fire was out, but by then, it was too late to save Besic. The security footage kept rolling for a few more minutes, capturing the smoke-filled cell. And when it finally cleared, there was nothing left but blurry shadows and complete silence. His family later sued the state, accusing the prison of negligence and demanding compensation. Takeaway: in a crisis, don't count on others to act quickly. It's better not to push things to the edge in the first place. And finally, I've saved the most unexpected and downright absurd death for last. February 2021, Lotner, Telangana, India. A local farmer was holding his rooster, getting it ready for an illegal cockfight. He was tying a rope around the bird's leg. strapping on a small but deadly sharp knife. In these fights, it's not just about money. Your rooster's reputation is on the line too. The fiercer your bird, the more respect you earn. Suddenly, the rooster panicked. Sensing danger, it started flapping and struggling hard. The man tightened his grip, but the bird kept thrashing wildly. In the chaos, the knife tied to its leg stabbed the man, right in the groin. He lost a lot of blood and died on the way to the hospital. Police later launched a search for 15 others involved in organizing the fight. They were charged with involuntary manslaughter, illegal gambling, and violating India's ban on cockfighting, a law that's been in place since 1960. But in rural parts of Telangana, these brutal contests are still surprisingly common, especially during the Sankranti festival, a Hindu harvest celebration. And this wasn't a one-off. Just a year earlier, in the neighboring state of Andhra Pradesh, another man was fatally stabbed in the neck by his own rooster during a similar event. The rooster had no idea it had been turned into a weapon, but the man did. And still, he was the one who strapped the blade to its leg. And yet, in this story, justice found its way. The predator became the prey. Here's the takeaway. Taking part in cruel, illegal games isn't just unethical. It can backfire in the worst possible way. What's the strangest death you've ever heard of? Drop it in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. There are plenty more real-life, cautionary tales coming your way.